if you have to go after financial inclusion, right, we have to really think about what is the problem today. So the solution is you have to develop something where the cost of customer acquisition becomes zero.
So when I went to your website, it says you are basically AWS for digital lending, right?
Yeah.
AWS as well as digital lending. These are very difficult terms to understand because even I am not from science background.
Yeah.
So what does this mean?
Okay, so in very simple terms, right? Like let's go back a bit.
Like what exactly do you do?
Perfect. So let me start by telling you a little bit of background,
Okay.
right? Like I said, right, my background is nothing to do with, finance, pretty much, right? My general background is to build, scalable platforms. Like if you think about FarmEasy or a Hotstar, right, they were all large platforms essentially where, we took something and we scaled it using technology. The goal with Apollo Finvest, if I say my goal is financial inclusion, it's a very, very large goal to have. It's not something which I think is easy to accomplish, right? It's more like a, mission statement of sorts, right? Now, if I want to do something which is so bold and so huge, how am I going to differentiate as compared to every other player out there, right? How do I compete with an HDFC? How do I compete with a Bajaj Finserv, right? So we really took this to heart, right? And one of the things our philosophy was that if you have to go after financial inclusion, right, we have to really think about what is the problem today. So the problem today, when you think about financial inclusion, is two things. One is the cost of customer acquisition, right? Okay. So whenever you think about a customer, you typically have to acquire a customer either by doing digital marketing, which is, doing ads, getting them to come up on your app or a website, or you have to open up branches, right? All of this is, of course, capex expensive. So it is expensive. Secondly, the cost of processing a loan, right? So when you think about the cost of processing a loan, right, typically a bank requires potentially anywhere between 500 to 1,000 rupees to process a loan application. Okay. So that's why, one of the fun exercises that we do over here is for a new employee, we actually ask them to go to their bank of choice, right? Like say as an example, you go to HDFC and you ask them for a 5,000 rupee loan. Okay. Even if you have 50,000 rupees in your bank account, they'll not do that. Right? They'll not be able to give you a 5,000 rupee loan, even though it's pretty much, risk free for them, because the cost doesn't make sense for them to go ahead and do that kind of loan. So what our philosophy really is, how do you solve this problem? Because when you think about financial inclusion, most of India actually requires really small ticket size loans, right? Because for the large ticket size loans, banks are there.
There are ample entities available to give them loans.
Exactly, right? So the solution is you have to develop something where the cost of customer acquisition becomes zero and the cost of processing a loan application trends towards zero. How do you do all of this? So this is where we've innovated, right? So number one, when it comes to cost of customer acquisition, our philosophy is that every app on your phone today is a branch of Apollo Finvest. Okay. Right? So any app, whether it's an Ola, Uber, Flipkart, Amazon, Zomato, whoever it is, right? They could partner with Apollo and originate loans on our behalf.
Okay.
Right?
But right now you're working in the edtech space, right? Only fintech.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So what fintech really means is that when we are accepting loans from them as leads, right? We're doing all of this 100% digitally.
Oh. Okay.
Now this leads to the second part of my thesis, which is the cost of processing a loan has to trend towards zero. How do you do that? And why is now the right time to do this, right? Because of two reasons. Reason number one is that today we have Geo. So what that has resulted in is that roads are going, internet is going, in fact, where roads don't go today, right? Number two thing is that we have Aadhaar, which has brought identity online. And of course, the last one, which is UPI, right? It has set money free on the internet and has made the cost of transacting online to be almost near zero. So when you combine the cost of processing a loan, which is trending towards almost zero, and you combine that with a business model, which is primarily around partnerships, the cost of customer acquisition becomes zero. So you don't reinvent the wheel when it comes to acquiring customers, and you take advantage of all of these amazing, technology infrastructures, which this country is basically building continuously, right? And today's government, thankfully, is really, really forward, right? Like UPI is a global phenomenon, right? It's a case study of Aadhaar and UPI, what we've done in India is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So all of these things, when you marry together, right, it allows you to create a platform which is a loan distribution platform in a way, right?